Hi, I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about the new Magic the Gathering set, The Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth is I think what they called it. I hosted a draft of this set the other day. When we draft, we play one game against every other player, and it just lets us see a bunch of different decks in play, and we get that drafting element of building a deck and seeing a bunch of different cards as they're passed around the table. I love that. This set has a couple mechanisms that are new to this set that I appreciate. I mean, this isn't really these videos are kind of me just talking through the set. The first is Amass. In Amass, they're related to these Orc Army cards. When you amass, like say a card says Amass 1, what that does is it says if you have an Orc Army already, add a +1/+1 token to it. Or if you don't have one, create a token, a 0/0 token with a +1/+1 token on it. And so this mechanism was really interesting because it doesn't create a whole field of tokens. Rather, over time, if you continue to amass, you're creating an increasingly large Orc army. One of my friends who was playing really focused on this, and he was ending up with like a 13 Orc army by the end of the game. That's rather difficult to deal with, but if you can somehow remove it from play, that's great, even temporarily. So I thought that was a fun mechanism, a fun challenge to deal with when someone builds their deck around Amass. The other core mechanism is the idea of the ring tempting you. So there's a mechanism in the game, a number of cards might say, the ring tempts you. Like this card comes into play, the ring tempts you. When you do that, you level up on this card. So this card remains in play and you level up the ring itself, the abilities that the ring gives to your ring bearer. So even if your ring bearer changes, the ability, the leveled up ability remains, and you get an accumulative sum of all of these different abilities. It makes one of your people, your creatures, very powerful. When the ring tempts you, you either assign a ring bearer or your current ring bearer becomes more powerful. And it's an interesting mechanism to make oftentimes a weaker creature more and more powerful over the course of the game, the more and more the ring tempts them. And there isn't really a downside. I thought that there might be a downside to the ring tempting you, but there really isn't that big of a downside unless I'm missing one. But it just seems like you make one smaller, weaker creature more and more powerful. You can choose a more powerful creature, but normally you choose, I think, a weaker creature for this. Now, the rest of the set, I think, is really just a masterclass in thematic design, taking the theme that we all know and love, or that many of us, that I know and love, of Lord of the Rings, and applying Magic the Gathering mechanisms to it. So I'm going to show a few cards of how they accomplish this. One is, there's a big food theme to the set, mostly as it relates to hobbits. Sorry, my focus isn't great here, but this is Samwise Gamgee. His mechanism has to deal with food. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a food token. He's creating food for the characters around him. We open Sauron the Dark Lord. Sauron is really good at amassing. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, amass Orcs 1. The ring tempts him whenever an army you control deals combat damage to a player. And this is really powerful. Whenever the ring tempts you, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 4 cards. So if you have no cards in hand, you can just draw 4 cards from this. There are land locations from Lord of the Rings. I thought this was great. There are actually beautiful basic lands in this set too, but this is the Shire that I'm holding up here. The Shire says, it gives you the ability to tap an untapped creature you control to create a food token. Food tokens in the game are a way to gain life, and they actually came in pretty helpful. I lost a game due to not paying attention to a food token. There's Rivendell. Rivendell says scry. So all the elves have to do with scrying. The elves are scouting out the world, gaining knowledge, so they're scrying. So there's all these little mechanisms that are applied to different races in the world of Lord of the Rings. There's Eomer. The horse race of people, I forget the name of that family. Rohan, it's right on the card. They often have haste, and they, what was the other thing about this one? Whenever one or more other attacking legendary creatures you control die, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. But I like the hasty element of a lot of the Rohan creatures. This is just an interesting card design. Dawn of the New Age. Not in terms of theme in particular. Here, actually focused. So Dawn of the New Age enters the battlefield with a hope counter on it for each creature you control. It only costs 2 mana. So, and at the beginning of your end step, you remove a hope counter from Dawn of a New Age, you gain a card, and if it's the last hope counter, you sacrifice the card and gain 4 life. So I thought this was a really interesting decision point in the games that I was playing. I had this card in my deck. Do I play it early when I only have 1 or 2 creatures in play, but when the card draw is really great and helpful and I'm going to get that life bonus at the end? Or do I wait until that right moment, maybe in mid-game where I have 3 or 4 creatures in play so that I get more card draw out of this card? Really well-designed card here. Also, I had the pleasure of opening this full art Gandalf the White, which was awesome. And Gandalf, and I believe maybe multiple wizards, but I know Gandalf has Flash. You know, Gandalf just shows up out of nowhere to save the day. So he has Flash. His ability, I won't go into the ability here, but I love the flash element of it. He actually gives other cards Flash as well. But I was just really happy to open up this beautiful card. There's also Shelob. The spider Shelob has to do with food as well. There are actually 2 different food cards that come in the game. One looks like the type of food that hobbits would eat. Another is the type that that a creature like Shelob might eat, like kind of a person or a hobbit encased in a web. As a spider, she has Death Touch. She has Ward. She's hard to hit. Other spiders you control have Death Touch and Ward. There's a longer ability as well, but I think those go really well with the theme. And the Watcher in the Water, this is a complex card, but I think this is a great way, or a very interesting way, to show a Kraken-like creature in Magic the Gathering. And last, I thought this was brilliant when I saw this, the Mithril Coat. So this little coat that seems to save Frodo from time to time. Flash has Flash, so it kind of surprises your opponent that you have it. They didn't realize you had it under your coat. Indestructible, makes sense for this card. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target legendary creature you control. Equipped creature has indestructible. So the card itself is indestructible, and it makes the creature indestructible. Just really clever card design. This set is just a real testament, I think, to designing based on theme, having a strong core set of mechanisms, and then applying them to a theme that you know and love. And yeah, it was a good reminder to me as a designer of how much I enjoy designing from theme first. If I have a thematic idea for a card or ability or a tile or whatever, a character, it's much easier for me to apply mechanisms to that than creating a cool mechanism and then trying to create a theme around that. Those are my thoughts on some specific cards in this set. Obviously, I only did 1 draft, so I've only seen a fraction of the cards. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have a favorite card design, especially a thematic card design in the new Tales of Middle-earth set of Magic the Gathering. Thanks.